listening to the First City Lax podcast, brought to you every week from the Florida Panhandle. Coach Jon and Coach JP explore the best and worst of lacrosse on the Gulf Coast. So strap your helmets on and let's go.
And welcome back to the podcast, First City Lacrosse, the second greatest lacrosse podcast on the planet. And I am here with one of my favorite people also on the planet, Coach Casey McDonald. Casey, how are you, sir? Welcome.
Coach, I appreciate that, man. I'm doing well. Great to be back. Excited to get rolling, man. It's been a wonderful Christmas and New Year break. And now, just like everybody else, between starting last week or starting tomorrow, everybody's getting excited to get back out there. And I'm definitely one of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me too. We start, I think, we got another week to go. I think we start on January 20th where we can start officially practicing. But I'm excited. I know the players are excited. And it's going to be, by the time this episode airs, I think everyone is going to be on the practice field. So it'll be good stuff. Nice. But you've been practicing for a while. Your Southside boys have been practicing for a while, right?
We did. So we took off the winter break, but we practiced for the fall. We had a nice fall. We ramped up everything from getting started last summer. We got through our summer workouts in July, and then we took off most of August so the kids could get into school and just into the rhythm and start fundraising and doing those things. And then we got into some captains practices, some guided and some I kind of let them kind of figure it out on their own a little bit. And then we got into fall ball in October and got through October and November. And then we had our fall ball games at Southside, which was great. It was a great wrap up to the first practice, off season for Southside High School lacrosse. And we got to play a handful of games on campus. We had some neutral site teams. We got a whole day of games going on the field. It was great.
How'd those go?
Brought our friends. They were good. Brought our friends from STM down the street over St. Thomas More here. The Ascension Pelicans used to be the Dutchtown Griffins. Now they've kind of morphed because it's two high schools together now, but they're the Ascension Pelicans. Those guys were great, good enough to come over. We brought the Chaos program from North Shore and the GSLL, and then the Hurricanes. And so we had a nice day of lacrosse and a little round robin action. And
nice.
Got to have our first taste of lacrosse on campus and hosting neutral games, which will be good for us because we're hosting a lot of neutral games this spring. And thankfully, because of our geography with the New Orleans and Shreveport travel distances for some of these guys, it'll be great to have that gate and have those concessions, but also have the ability to help these teams play lacrosse, and it sure beats the alternative. So it was a good practice run for us. It was good game runs. We scored the first goal in team history, which was really cool. I actually have the ball here. I was really excited to keep that. I'm going to get one of those.
Get all the players to sign it.
But yeah, I'm gonna do that and get the case for it and put it in the school trophy cabinet and all that kind of stuff. But man, honestly, we prepared really hard. We were practicing 3 nights a week, 4 nights a week most weeks, whether or not, and then we would get into the chalk talks and things like that if the weather distracted us. One of my favorite lines in our group me is, it's a pinned post: practice will not be canceled. We will be doing something. We never let weather be an issue, but we're going to meet, we're going to chalk talk, we're going to watch film, something. It's just always fun to, get those kids that are coming from that middle school youth world. And it's like, oh, it's raining or whatever. We're not having practice. No. We're high school varsity now. We're having practice. We're meeting. We're doing something.
That's right.
But we worked really hard. We were able to grab and add on some assistant coaches there through the fall, and now I've got them set now with Coach Ruth and Coach Tripp joining us. So I've got some help, and we got after it in that fall ball action. We played really well to start. We played STM's team, and man, we won our first face-off. We ended up getting one of our first clears, the design clear, the way it's supposed to work. It was just like, wow, this is how lacrosse looks. It's kind of funny and iffy when you got 27 players and only 6 have ever played the game before. You never know what you're going to get on the first that first quarter or first half. You really never know what's going to happen until it happens. As much as we prepared, as much as we went over our playbooks and drew it up and talked about it and repped it out and walked through it, you just never know, and it was really exciting to see us run a true clear from a post shot. We ran transition really well. We got one of our first goals, and it was moving the ball to score the goal, not just a goofy goal. It was really cool, and it was one of our seniors that got it. So, just always a cool moment. STM, actually got to give a shout out to the guys at STM. They actually, we were all excited. We were getting set for the next face-off and everything after we scored. They actually slowed it down and actually stopped the game and grabbed the game ball for us, and took a classy moment right there by the guys from St. Thomas More. always got respect for those guys. It's always great because they're our neighbors, and we work together to grow it. But it was really cool for them to have the wherewithal in the moment to slow us down, because we were like, all right, who's on the next faceoff line? Let's go, get you there. And they were like, no, coach, wait, coach, get the ball. And they threw us the ball, and that was a pretty cool moment, and our guys really appreciated that. So it's always
Awesome.
good to call good sportsmanship out like that, because that's what it's all about. Especially they knew it was our first time hosting, and they were a big part of coming over and bringing their squad and bringing all their fans and families and everybody that came. So it was really great. We learned a lot about ourselves. We learned, kids learned about spacing. They learned about timing. They realized that you could practice against each other all we like every week. And you kind of get stale with that. Then you play somebody else, and you're like, oh yeah, that guy doesn't care if I'm, if I'm my knees favored or whatever. I gotta play tough, and I gotta stay on him, and I gotta maintain my responsibilities. So it was really good to get those reps in and get those lessons in that first game. And then we played a second game where the Hurricanes and the Pelicans joined up together, and that was pretty upperclassmen heavy and lacrosse experience heavy for those guys. And they put it on us. They rattled off a lot of goals. We were getting everybody playing time though. So at that point, we had a lot of people that were learning and realizing the things that they've been learning, and the responsibilities needed to be perfect and needed to be executed well. But we got it on film, and we were taking the time through the winter break to get through it and learn from it. And so, we had some instances of getting gassed a little bit, and people starting to realize that our conditioning, that we do does matter, and the things we're asking you to do outside of practice matters, and the individual stick work matters. And a lot of those lessons hit hard by the end of that second game. And I had a lot of the players actually step up in the post game meeting and say, hey, I don't ever want to feel like this again. Hey, we did take that day off, or we did this and we didn't do this right, and let's all circle the wagons and refocus ourselves. So I really was proud of our guys for post game to hold their heads up and recognize immediately that they didn't want to feel like that again, even though obviously it was a scrimmage and it doesn't count for the books or anything. But the fact that they have that competition drive and they got it right away, and they kind of policed themselves or coached themselves to a point and said, hey, yeah, we're going to have some captain's practices, winter break. We're all going to hold each other accountable. We're going to go on runs. Hey, I'll be there. I'll come pick you up. We'll go shoot, this kind of stuff. It was really encouraging to see. And that's the kind of stuff that you love in a first year program or any program. But, that made me feel like we're building the right culture. We're getting put in the right direction. And I was really proud of my squad for that one. And I'm interested to see what happens tomorrow. We start practice tomorrow, and we play in the Crawfish Shootout hosted by the Hurricanes in 2 weeks on the 25th. So we got we're going to go Monday through Friday. So we got 10 practices before we get after it with our 2 preseason scrimmages, and then the season starts February 1st. So I'm excited to see the results of these guys. Like I said, I like to let them figure it out a little bit. I kind of stayed a lot of hands off as I could anyway. Through the winter break, I'd guide them with a couple things like, hey, let's work on your left, or maybe do that. But I kind of left it to the captains and the squad leaders and said, you guys get out there, you guys have some fun, get your reps in. I'm interested to see how that all culminates tomorrow when we hit it, and we get after it, and the rest of this week, and we'll see what we really got. And I'm interested. I'm excited.
The thing I find most interesting is that every year, no matter how many times we as coaches will try to warn the new players, especially, is how fast, like the speed of the game just seems to take them by surprise. This isn't, football, you have a clock in between every single play. And in basketball, there's a shot clock. And so you may have time to like slow it down, set up a play and things like that. In lacrosse, you just go. I mean, it's just it's so quick, and it takes those new players by surprise. And so it doesn't shock me that they sort of had a wake up call, especially with your second game there. But it's that learning curve. The first couple of games is steep. How many games do you guys have scheduled for the spring?
So right now we have 18 games scheduled for the spring. We have a lot of double headers on some Saturdays, so it works out in our favor. We were able to work out a couple of midweek games, but we're going to play 18. Most of those are going to be in the LHSAA or the LHSLL Division II. We are going to play a couple of D1 programs, so take our lumps and get some experience from those guys, and get that action done. But yeah, we're going to play it. And it's funny that you reacted like that, and I kind of looked back and I was like, oh man, 18 games. But then you look at it, we're off for the whole week of Mardi Gras, just because in South Louisiana it's almost impossible to play during Mardi Gras unless you're
Yep.
a well-established program and you're taking a trip or something. And then we're off for half a spring break with the playoffs. So because Mardi Gras is late this year, so it's kind of, as soon as we get started February 1st, we get after it. We have one game date that we're off. Like normal game date would be the 8th. Just it worked out to have a weekend off after we kind of play two back-to-back doubleheaders in Saturdays, in successive Saturdays. I think that's going to help us. We're really spread out. I mean, we play 2 games on a Friday and then 2 games on a Wednesday, and everything else is Saturdays. So it's really spaced out, and the double headers are really where the numbers come in. So we're going to be okay. We're taking 5 road trips in this first year. We were very fortunate to find a family member friend who is actually a bus driver. So that's going to help us with, budget and funding and things like that. And that's a big tip for anybody starting a program that has to go through your buses. If you've got a family member or somebody with a CDL license that can get that done, that helps you save a ton of money, because when you rent and book a bus driver, book a bus, it can add up. It can get somewhere $1,500.
People think the schools pay for it, and they don't. I mean, that's money that is 100% fundraised by the program itself. It's a big challenge. It's a big challenge.
Yeah, it's big. I mean, a trip to Baton Rouge and back, or even midway through the other side of Baton Rouge to New Orleans, is about $1,500, $1,750 if you're paying the full board. So when you have somebody that's helping you and will volunteer some time and help you with their bus, that makes a big difference in the world. So that's a big tip to anybody starting a program that has to go through, that kind of transport, especially in a public program where not everybody's going to be able to get in their car and take the road trip to every game as a family, take the caravan. When you're looking for those buses, look for that angle of somebody that can help you, a family member, a family friend, maybe teacher sponsor that happens to have the CDL, whatever, drives the activity bus. It's a big tip and a big helper, but we're grateful for that.
Every little bit helps, because, you're talking about your annual, like a program like yours, like, just a standard team program, your budget might only be somewhere in the $15,000 to $20,000 annual range. And so a $1,500 bus trip, that you just took 10% of your budget away just like that, and you haven't paid a single ref, you haven't mowed the grass, and you haven't put uniforms on the players' backs yet. That's a huge deal.
It's a big number, and you have to do it in some programs. So yeah, definitely always able to work with you and help guys that are starting programs or dealing with that kind of stuff. Shoot them those tips, because it's helpful, because otherwise you have a best laid plan for a year, your off-season planning, summer, whatever, and then you get to the season, you're like, yeah, I got to book a bus. And all of a sudden you got a $1,500, $2,000 bill you got to come up with quick, or else everybody's jumping in 5 Suburbans and trying to get to a game. And that's not always easy to execute. So yeah, it's definitely something you got to consider. And it's one of those things.
You have to shoot over your schedule or post your schedule on your social media as soon as you guys have it finalized.
We will. We're finalizing that this week. We just found out that Willow Charter School is going to be able to have a team again this year. They graduated 13 guys last year, so they were worried a little bit. Coach Toomey did a great job recruiting on campus and getting some guys back. So that we're mixing in to add them in the LHSLL D2. So that'll be game 18. But we'll get that finalized this week, and we'll be posting it on our Southside High School Lacrosse Club Facebook and Instagram. That'll be out this week.
Can't wait to see it. I mean, I really am going to try to get to one of your games more if I can.
Can't wait.
I really want to see it.
Can't wait, man.
Yeah, that'll be good.
Yeah, we're going to have some, like I said, we'll have the crawfish shootout with the Hurricanes, and we'll have some of those Saturday neutrals games. That'd be great to have you, man. It'll be wonderful.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if everybody remembers. We're gonna switch gears here a little bit, because this is important. There's some changes happening, but if people remember from the first time you were on here, you have some college coaching experience, and so you kind of have a pretty good feel for not only what it takes to play at that level, but also what it takes to get there and some of the ins and outs. Now, this last year we saw a couple of eligibility changes that I wanted to ask you about, because I'll be honest, I don't fully understand all of them. Obviously the big one that's official is that you have 5-year NCAA athletes have 5 years of eligibility. For 4 seasons basically. So you could fundamentally redshirt maybe 2 seasons now, I guess. I'm not sure exactly how that works, but
It's always changing. You said it
yeah.
like, hey, I've got the experience and I've got the knowledge. I did until about 4 weeks ago. I feel like now I'm beginning all over.
Mhm.
It's like I joke with my kids about trying to teach them math in fifth grade math. It's totally different than when I did math 20 years ago.
Yeah.
The landscape is
Yeah.
changing, man. The
The rules are different.
possibilities.
Landmark cases,
Yeah,
the eligibility for JUCOs, for junior colleges, and then just like roster
yep,
changes. What do you
absolutely.
know? I know you've got contacts in the
So,
industry. What do you know?
yeah, I could tell you the big one is the roster limit changes. That is changing the landscape tremendously. And that is obviously forcing some D1 coaches to make some hard decisions. There's guys, forever you could just fill as many recruits as you wanted to, and the halves of the world, the Ohio States and the Marylands and the Penn States and Syracuse of the world could have 60, 65, 68 guys on their team, and they had a game squad and a practice squad, and there was always guys to be able to come up and down. Now they're having to make some tough decisions because they've capped it now. And you've got to figure what's best for not only this year, but what's best for year 2, year 3, based on your graduation rates and your numbers and your upperclassmen versus your underclassmen numbers. So you're having to really make difficult decisions that aren't necessarily X's and O's. It's more like you're having to become a CEO of your program now and manage your workforce, because you've always got to recruit, you got to bring in the next class, but you got to now keep the class that you have. NIL has changed the game. Without giving away too much or breaking too much on sources, people think, oh, these all these football guys are making millions, so surely baseball, basketball, lacrosse guys are making millions. They're not. But there's guys out there that are making 5-figure, 6-figure NIL deals in lacrosse. It's in our sport. It's happening. They're fewer and further between for the 6-figure, but there's guys out there that are making almost as much, if not more, than Division I assistant coaches now. So that's a dynamic that's never been on the table before. So just as hard as multi-million-dollar Division I football coaches are having to navigate the waters of a $3 million quarterback or a $4 million wide receiver, running back, whatever. Now you've got, Division I coaches, battling with a kid, 18, 19, 20 years old, whatever, making as much as he does. And he's been coaching 20, 25 years, 30 years, trying to get through this game, because it's a grind and it is what it is. But our budgets are our budgets in Division I, Division II, Division III. So there's a dynamic that's going to be something that we've never had to, guys have never had to deal with before. And, that changes the attitude of a locker room. It changes the attitude of a meeting room and a practice field. And things like that are going to be interesting to watch unfold. I keep saying, like, I used to know these kind of things, but now it's like I don't know, because these are such new waters. Now I have to sit back and wait, for these guys to tell me what it's like this season to handle that, and to handle these boosters who want their program to be so great. So they are throwing specific money at specific bank accounts now, and how you handle that from a coaching aspect when you have donors who are now donating for a specific player to have playing time and results, and then also have their media time and their NIL commitments for the commercials and the poster boards and the public appearances and those kinds of things, because really there's so few people that actually have a handle on how to police this and how to run with it, how to manage it, because some of these contracts these kids are getting, and I'm talking about all sports, not just lacrosse, but some of these contracts, they have no clauses, they have no enforcement, they have no protections for the players themselves. A kid and his parents, or a kid and his uncle, or a kid and their NIL lawyer, not say an agent, because they can have an agent, but they can have an NIL lawyer. Some of these contracts are so ambiguous that people are offering $25,000 for an appearance or something, and then the appearance happens, and then they don't pay the kid, and they're like, oh yeah, no, you were in violation of this clause or this thing that you didn't read. You didn't read the fine print, so we're not paying you for it. And it's happening left and right, and these kids are getting taken
Mm-hmm.
advantage of. And full athletic departments now, there's multiples, LSU being one of them. They have an entire NIL athletic department. They have a staff who's there to help educate these players and help them from a legal standpoint to read these contracts and understand where the liabilities are and where the responsibilities lie, because so many of these, I mean, what 18, 19, 20-year-old kid knows how to read a contract, knows what's expected of them when all they see is a $25,000 check or a $50,000 check or a car show up. And they're like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, okay. Oh, I have to show up 3 hours a week or 3 hours a month or whatever these deals are. And, they don't know, they don't understand it. And so it's almost like NFL rookie transition, right? Those guys get drafted and they go through the rookie meetings and those rookie conferences, and those players are starting to come back and tell them like, hey, you guys got to learn, you're about to have a multi-million-dollar check. People are going to be asking you for money left and right.
Mm-hmm.
And before you know it, you're going to be broke. And that's the tale we all know from the NFL and NBA and major leagues. It's now happening with these kids. Obviously a smaller dollar amount, but the dollars are the dollars, man. And these kids are not handling it. And it's just a whole other area of coaching now that's not X's and O's coaching, but it's being the adult in the room and having to manage that roster, all while at the same time you're having to manage your numbers and recruit and get your fundraising for your program itself and hit your budgets and scheduling and make sure the rules are following and you're watching film. So it's so much more now for these guys to have to handle, that it's going to be interesting to see it unfold this year and into next summer and fall before I think really anybody gets a handle on it. And what we really need to kind of use this platform, at least this episode, is to let people realize they're going to have to start doing a lot more research on schools they're interested in and programs they're interested in playing for, because the landscape is changing. Athletic departments are combining with other satellite schools or absorbing schools, junior colleges and satellite campuses, the city bases of things like that. Where that funding is going, what funding is going to exist for specific sports. It's going to be, people are going to have to take a lot more ownership on their recruitment. Parents are going to have to get involved a lot more, and they're going to have some serious discussions with the coaching staffs and ask the hard questions. What's going on with your program? What is the 12-month, 18-month, 24-month forecast for your university and your athletic department? Because some of these programs are getting closed while coaches are at recruiting events or they're at the national conference. The big story from the IMLCAs was a coaching staff found out they lost their job while they were at the annual convention. These things are happening, and it's almost like every day these guys are getting up and going, I wonder if I have a job today. There's a lot for these guys to stress on now. And it's tough. And I feel really bad for the 25 class who hasn't gotten signed yet. The guys who aren't, in their dream programs or in their committed program yet, and still have to wade through this and be the guinea pigs. They're the first guys through the wall. And the 26 class is going to find it hard too, because what's true in January of 25 is not going to be true in April of 25. And it's not going to be true in July of 25. And they're going to have to get up every time and through these days and through these weeks and months. They're just going to have to continue to follow the cycle of the news cycle and the announcements, because nobody really knows what's going to happen. And I'm really excited to watch this unfold. And I'm really excited to get more guys connected to the podcast so we can start to get some of those answers from behind the scenes, because it'll be interesting to see what they report on at the beginning and then what they report on the end of the season and then through the summer. It'll be interesting to see the transitions. But the main point that I hope we can get through to people is the landscape is completely different now, guys, and you're going to have to work together with your coaching, with your club coaches, your high school coaches, and even your guidance counselors, your school guidance counselors, your athletic directors. You're going to have to kind of get together, and the old joke, it takes a village, right? You're going to have to get your village circled up. If you want to play college athletics, not just lacrosse, mind you, I'm talking all sports now, you've got to navigate these new waters. It's going to be interesting for a while, and it's a lot of unknowns and a lot of changes coming that people are going to have to pay attention to.
And coaches already had, like college coaches already had their hands full, because they don't build their roster 1 year out. They're looking 4, 5,
Right.
6 years out. They're looking for those players. And even if they're, not technically allowed to talk to those players until their junior year of high school, they still see them. They still know who they are.
See them, they evaluate
I
them,
guarantee
they keep their
you.
lists.
Oh yeah. Yep. They're watching them. They're taking notes. And I tell you, I've seen players the first day that coaches are eligible to talk to them, they're starting to get their phones are starting to ring, and now it's just like, these kids, they're going to be asking well, how much money can you give me? How is that
Right.
going to play out? I mean, we're seeing the
Dude.
transfer portal, at least for football, explode. It's absolutely insane right now. And so, that transfer portal is open to all athletes in all sports at all colleges. How is that
Absolutely.
going
And
to
I'll tell
change
you,
that?
it's already changed. I have Division II and Division III coaches that talk to me candidly and say kids are legitimately asking them about the NIL deals at Division II and Division III. Like there's so much misconception and misunderstanding about which programs, which colleges, which universities have these kinds of budgets and these kinds of reaches. I mean, people have to understand Division One and the top echelon of Division One have 99% of the money, and everybody else is going to have something here and there. But if you're going the Division II, Division III route, you got to know academics are your money, are your true check of money. The admissions process, the academic admissions process is not going to change. The athletic consideration, the athletic influence on your application or your acceptance is going to be what's going to be different now, because again, roster caps and things like that at the D1 level, and how that trickles down now to D2 and D3, because a guy who was a bubble guy at D1 is now a top target for a D2 or a NESCAC D3 or an upper level D3 program. And now you're talking about coaches have to deal with so much. Now they already get to deal with transfer portal discussions. And so it used to just be all the back and forth in the competition for recruits. Now it's all the back and forth in competition for your players, for your roster year to year. So these guys are now having to deal with potential rules violations, tampering, communication, because when they open the door to Instagram messages and Facebook and Twitter messages between coaches and back and forth, there weren't really many limitations on, well, when does that end, or when does that, when do you stop talking to guys? And now with the transfer portal, there really weren't rules. They just said, okay, the transfer portal's open, and they didn't really say, but you can't talk to this, and you can't do this, and you can't do that. So everybody was starting to find, the gray areas between the lines, and and it's, you can't fault the guys for doing that, because it's competition. They're coaching, they're recruiting for their jobs, they're doing everything they can to fill their rosters, to get wins, to get to championship weekend, to get to the playoffs. So there's a level of understanding that everybody's just doing what they can do to better their program. But it is going to start
and the players
down.
are going to be like, if the coach from the competing program calls them the day after the season ends, and even though that assistant coach or that booster or whoever isn't supposed to talk to him, that player's still going to talk to him. I mean,
they're gonna, because they don't know the difference, and
it's a competitive industry.
Absolutely, and they don't have a call
even if they knew the
list.
rules. Yeah,
right.
even if they knew the
How do you
rules,
stop,
they would still.
How do you stop a 19, 20-year-old?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
They're going to be like, hey, man, I've got a great opportunity for you. Okay, I'm all ears.
Yeah.
What you got?
I'm all ears. Yeah. And what are you promising? Okay, cool. Like, they don't know you're promising. No, let me see it in writing. Now you got the whole layer of asking for it in writing and asking for your lawyer to look it over and make sure it's binding, because, you look at some of these deals and it's unbelievable what these guys are getting. And, it goes backwards, because in the NIL, in my heart of hearts, the NIL was built for the Division II, Division III guys who came up from a small town, small high school, whatever, and they wanted to go back and host their clinic and whatever, and use their name and use their college and do all that. You couldn't do that. You couldn't say, come to Jimmy Smith's tennis lessons at Smith High School or whatever, at $25 a kid. He's at XYZ Division II university. You couldn't do that. Now you can do it, and that kid can make a couple $100, a couple $1,000 when he's home for winter break, spring break, summer, or whatever. That's in my heart of hearts, and in the conversations that I kind of latched onto at the beginning of the NIL. That's what that was for the guys to make some, the guys who couldn't before, get a little extra money so they can buy Chick-fil-A on a Sunday, when the cafeteria is closed or whatever at school. Obviously, it was built for the big money and
You're
the
probably
big
not getting
transactions,
Chick-fil-A on Sunday.
Yeah, well, that's what you're right. Sorry, that was a bad example. A McDonald's or a Chipotle,
Chipotle
on a Sunday.
There you go.
That's right. Chick-fil-A on Sunday. That's what my brain. But no, like, obviously we know it was built for the big, Division I football and and basketball guys, but it was truly built for the thousands and thousands of kids who could not benefit from their name before, and now they can. And that's what it should have been. And somebody, the adults in the room should have had the foresight to know they had to put a fence around these things, and they didn't. And now it's a new Pandora's box every day because something else opens up and something else changes. Somebody else comes up with a better idea, and they're like, yeah, there's no rule against this idea, so we're going to do it. And then everybody has to adjust to it. So it's like I said, I feel bad for those coaches who wake up every day and they're like, cool, what new angle do I have to learn today? Because all I want to do is coach my 2-2-2 offense, and I want to run a transition after that. But no, I have to coach through all of this transfer portal minutia instead. So it's a lot for these guys, and it's going to be interesting to see how it all shakes out. But
Well, I think
again,
it's starting to trickle down to high school too. Have you
it
seen some of
is.
those reports come out?
I've seen some reports for some of those, those PG schools and those massive national travel schools are pulling it.
Yep.
You know, the IMGs of the world. That's going to be interesting, man. And again, it goes back to that roster drop down, right? So Division I rosters are cutting, so now Division II rosters are going to get bigger, and then they're going to have different cuts, and guys are going to drop to Division III, and those rosters are going to change, and then the NAIA JUCO rosters are going to happen, and then the MCLA rosters, right? For the kids that don't want to deal with any of that nonsense, they just want to go to college, have some fun, play some lacrosse, 2-3 nights a week and play on the weekends. I think you're going to see it grow the game for us in that aspect, but it's going to ruin the game, I think, for a little bit in the short term. I don't think we're going to see some of the best players on the best fields anymore. I think it's going to be really spread out, and it's going to take some time for the market to kind of settle and, for everybody to kind of get used to this new path. But you're going to see some MCLA teams pop up in places that hadn't before because they had an NCAA team or they had a Division II or a JUCO or whatever, and it's going to be interesting for a little bit to see those things pop up and pop off, and then course correct probably in another 2 or 3 seasons because the rules are just going to keep changing and the money is going to be there, so they're going to figure it out. It's going to be wild, man.
Does playing a year of MCLA affect your eligibility at the D1, D2, D3 level?
So it's always been.
What's your understanding of that?
My understanding is it does because it started, your NCAA clock starts when you get to a campus. But the rules kept changing for sport, right? If you went to a school and played one sport and then went pro and you still had eligibility remaining in the other sport. So I actually, now with all this going on, I don't know how it, I don't know with MCLA down, but obviously we see a lot of guys transferring from NCAA down to MCLA, and MCLA is granting eligibility based on what they have left. But I don't know how it transfers the other way from MCLA going up. So I'd be interested to see some of the guys that we can get on to explain that and explain how that's changing. But schools like Texas are doing a really good job. Georgia Tech, Georgia, getting some former, NCAA guys coming down in their grad year, getting that 5th year, right? They redshirted. Maybe they got their degree and now they're looking for a graduate degree somewhere. Kyle Hartzell's done a great job with Texas, bringing in some guys. I see Georgia Tech roster here and there. South Carolina gets some guys like that, Florida State. So it's going to be interesting to see that change over the next couple of years too, because the guys who just maybe they don't want to be a part of this craziness that is NIL, and they just want to go to a nice fun school and get there, finish out their degree and play a little lacrosse and, maybe win an MCLA conference title or division, a national championship maybe.
Yeah.
That'll be interesting to see that unfold as well. I think some guys we can get on will explain that a little bit better.
Yeah, I'll have to talk to you when we get done here about seeing who would be some good resources for that. I think the next question that sort of it pops up into my head is like, with the recent ruling, there was a player that transferred from, New Mexico State to Vanderbilt or something like that, and he basically said, "Hey, I want another year of eligibility because you can't tell me that the competition at that school was the exact same as the competition." And the judge granted him the injunction. Basically, NCAA said, "No, you can't do it." The judge said, "Yes, he can," and so he was able to play. So the theory behind it and the prevailing argument, I think, is that the NCAA is going to have to define what is an eligible year, and I think it's going to come down to Division I. It may filter down to D2, but even Division I has, on the football side, like you have FBS and FCS, so even they recognize that there's different qualities of play. So How do you think that's going to play out? Like for our kids that want to play at junior college, because let's be honest, if you're not getting money for a sport and you don't have the grades maybe for an academic scholarship, and everyone knows that
Hmm.
college is not getting any cheaper, junior college might be the best bet. A
Yeah.
2-year program, and then but you still want to keep playing, right? If you don't play for those 2 years, or if you play on some men's beer league team or something, it's not
It's
nearly
not
the
the
same
same.
level that you're going to
Yeah.
need if you're trying to go to
I'll
that
tell you,
D1, D2, D3 school. So how's that going to
I'll
play
tell
out?
you what I've seen so far is more in high school baseball. The guys on the baseball scene, if this
Mm-hmm.
2-4 thing, this 2 years of JUCO, 4 years of NCAA eligibility gives you 6 years now, the
Mm-hmm.
biggest change out of the gates baseball. And the guys that I've seen on some of their podcasts and some of their Instagram accounts and things that are talking about it, they're basically saying you can kiss high school signees to Division I college, you can kiss that goodbye. They're going to tell everybody to go JUCO, and all the division
Mm-hmm.
teams are going to be hunting down the JUCOs, and it's just going to be a cycle up. And then you're going to see a major change in minor league baseball because of it, because the kids are going to have to go the JUCO route, and the major league ball clubs are not going to spend money developing a kid for 5, 6, 7 years to get to the show when they can
Mm-hmm.
do 2 years of JUCO and they get the quality coaching they're going to get there, and then 4 years of NCAA, and they're going to stay because their draft stock is too low anyway. There, it's going to
Mm-hmm.
be a whole different. It's going to be a whole different angle for them, and they're talking about. I mean, these guys are saying they won't even look at a high school kid if this 2-4 thing happens, because there's only so many high school kids straight out of high school are going to be studs in the pros, right? There's 10 a year maybe out of the
Mm-hmm.
thousands and thousands that go in. So and baseball we know has changed because of Moneyball, right? Everything is mathematics now, and they've realized that it's better for these guys to play the best competition they can across their same age and age up and get into it. And I'm wondering if that's going to happen for more sports. I would imagine that's going to happen for track as well. I imagine, track sports, these kids, it's going to definitely happen in football. You're going to see kids who might not be on the academic profile right away, and they might not be big enough, fast enough, strong enough at 18 to be a 4 or 5 star athlete anymore. But they can go in and get 2 years of JUCO, get quicker, faster, stronger, get through
Mm-hmm.
those junior college courses, get their grades up, and then all of a sudden they're that much more of a attractive recruit for the junior year. And then they got 2 years of JUCO in. They got their 1 year of Division I where they shined out big. Do they stay and go for their first senior year, or do they go to the NFL at that point? Because that's 21, right? That's 3 years of college ball, or 21,
Mm-hmm.
whichever happened first. So now kids are playing JUCO level, so they're still taking big hits, but they're not getting destroyed at like the Division I level. So their bodies are not as beaten and worn down. They took the time to get bigger, faster, stronger, and they took the time to age up a little bit, and they had a goal in mind, right? They knew they had to pay attention and behave in JUCO to get to Division I, to get to the NFL. Now, the way it is now, you go from high school to Division I to the NFL. There's an extra step now, so I think that extra step is going to humble a lot of people and keep them focused, and then get them to that next level to then realize the next level. But then, the thing I look at it as the 2-4, in my opinion, and the way I would look at it as a college or a college coaching staff or an athletic department is, okay, I'm getting these kids who are coming in already with an associate's degree, give or take, for 2 years of JUCO. They're going to come. The bulk of them are going to play for the 4 years at my institution and get a bachelor's degree at least 2 years in, and then possibly a master's degree at the end of the fourth year. We're going to be graduating some seriously positive kids that are educated,
Mm-hmm.
and ideally, a postgraduate degree, and then going into the workforce and being that much better of a representation of your athletic department, of your university. And I wonder how that's going to play between admissions departments, athletic departments, the academic side of things, because now you're promoting the higher end of the education. I'm really interested to see how that's going to play out, because we all know there's, the 1% that goes from college to pro and all that. What are these institutions going to do with the kids now who have the ability to get a graduate degree and stay 4 years after 2 years of JUCO, and
Mm-hmm.
really stick around? And then you're talking about 23, 24-year-old, I mean, what do you even call them? Super juniors and super seniors who are
Yeah,
really
pretty much.
leaders. Yeah, but they're really now super leaders on your Division One program, whether you're a top level D1 or even a mid major. Now you've got some serious leadership. You've got a lot less of the issues that you're dealing with 18 and 19-year-olds coming out of the gate. You got guys that are focused, that are there for a reason. They're there on a mission. I think it's going to be interesting to study the sociological impact afterwards and see how this goes. So like I said, everything's changing and everything is going to go. And there's so many unknowns, and I'm really interested at the possibilities. I'm also a little terrified of the possibilities. We to be on the other side of the coin.
What
And
terrifies
it's
you?
gonna, that terrifies me of some of these kids that we've all watched Last Chance U or whatever on Netflix, and those guys that go JUCO and they
Hmm.
just don't care. They don't even show up to class. They don't do anything, and then they throw away what that opportunity was. That terrifies me a little bit. Uh, Frankly, the money itself, how much money is going to be thrown around, that terrifies me for these 18, 19, 20, 21, 22-year-old kids. There's
2 more
angles of
years
that
of playing sports where you risk potential injury, two
to
more
potential
years
injury as well.
of if you're not getting an NIL deal, 2 more years of paying for college and not joining the
Yeah,
workforce, or potentially working
right.
a full-time job or part-time job while you're trying to be in school. I think there are
Absolutely.
some major logistical issues. Now, the number of college athletes in comparison to college students is still very low.
Hmm.
It's still I want to say it's probably single digit percentage wise, but regardless of that, I mean, it's, if you're a college athlete, or if you have aspirations to be a college athlete and, eventually a pro athlete, no matter what sport, then there are things you have to do in order to get to that level. And
Hmm.
now you're talking about tacking on potentially 2 more years of work in order to get to that point. I think it's
Right.
I think it's a challenge. I think baseball's already pulling kids out of high school and junior college. I
Hmm.
don't think that one's going to be quite as different as maybe what we were projecting. But I mean, I would be happy to be proven wrong there too.
It would be,
It's
but
really
I
interesting to
was,
see. Like you said, the landscape is changing.
yes, I was just shocked at how quickly everyone on the baseball side seemed to agree that recruiting out of high school would just be a thing of the past. Like if this 2-4 thing happens, it was all, I mean, it was basically unanimous across these different guys, different podcasts, different coaches, different interviews, and it was, they weren't connected people or connected the same show, just a follow-up episode or anything. So I found it really interesting that right away everyone's knee jerk was, well, if I can get JUCO guys for my D1 program, I'm not going to a high school kid. And it was about I don't want to deal with the 18-year-old away from home for the first time when
Hmm.
I can get a 20-year-old who's away from home for the second time. That's less problems you got to deal with those kids. They're not going to a party school. They're not going to a party roster or whatever. You don't have to worry about them making the adjustment because they've already made the adjustment. So
Yeah.
it's just more of like, it's just like in the workforce, right? You never really want to hire somebody, it's their first job, unless your job is so specific you need to train somebody perfectly raw.
Hmm.
But when you can get somebody with experience and JUCO college baseball experience who's been through the JUCO buses and the JUCO dugouts and things like that, then they get to a Division One. It's like, oh, they appreciate it that much better when it's a kid that just came out of high school and he's like, oh, this is what it's supposed to be. I'm here,
Hmm.
spoil me, give me all that stuff. There's that aspect. I think I understand from the high school coaches or the college JUCO coaches standpoint, and it'll be interesting to see what sports that also translates to and what sports it just has nothing to do with at all, just because of the way the competition is and their sheer numbers. But for
Hmm.
lacrosse, what I'd be really interested in is this: if this 2-4 thing happens, I could see a lot of public high school lacrosse players going the JUCO route to be competitive and prove themselves and get quicker, faster, stronger, and put up some serious numbers at JUCO to then
Hmm.
get the traditional powerhouse blue bloods of the Division One level or the blue bloods of D2 and even D3, the NESCAC, and let those guys get an opportunity who normally wouldn't get one because they weren't at Under Armour All-American, Nike All-American, the big showcases, the big tryouts, because those kids didn't have that because they were football, baseball, basketball, lacrosse player, multi-sport guys. I think this, now that, we're kind of sussing it out a little bit, I was thinking about this over the break and reminded myself when you just brought it up. I think this opens up an interesting set of possibilities for public high school kids who don't have the traditional resources to get to those events. Now they can go play JUCO. They can play regionally, or as potentially regionally as possible. Some of these JUCO programs will have to get formed and created, but they can play JUCO or they can play NAIA, whatever, and go out and prove themselves and go notch 35, 40, 50 goals and 35, 40 assists, whatever the numbers need to be, cause turnovers, save percentage, whatever, and turn some heads, because what is the landscape going to look like in 2, 3, 4 years with all these transfer portal things and these lessons these Division I coaches are learning? And injuries are always an issue, right? So if you can turn around and get a 2-year seasoned goalie at 55, 60%, 62% save percentage, and he can come in right away, and he's 20, 21 years old,
and he's
not
hitting
a
the
19-year-old
gym.
hot shot. He's been hitting it.
Understands how to keep his grades up. He's got the college thing down. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It's very interesting, and I'll be interested to kind of remember this note when we bring the guys on that I hope we can bring on, because it'll be interesting to see what they're already seeing and what they're thinking, or if that even crosses their mind. Because from where I sit, it crosses my mind. I think it's a great opportunity because I'm in the public high school world, and my kids don't have the same exposure unless I go force that exposure for them. So I think, maybe it could be something for the public side, and maybe the private side still is always going to be the private side. I don't know. I find it interesting. Like I said, there's so many unknowns, and there's things that we're not even discussing yet that are probably out there on the table that it's just going to be a lot. And it all goes back and it all comes full circle to just remind people, you've got to start looking at it from a far away, look, and start asking the questions when you're on these recruiting visits and you're on these recruiting emails and phone calls. Ask these coaches, what do they see for their program? What do the coaches see for their own coaching career? Are they going to stay at that school for another year or two now? Or are they going to go and move up or move laterally or go to a different university that might have a different athletic plan? You're going to have to kind of see those conversations and see how those coaches react to you when you ask those questions. Are they confident and direct? Are they timid? Are they, I don't know, buddy. I just want to be here and I'm a coach here, and if they don't have that confidence, you got to sit back as a family and say, okay, what did that make you feel? How did that make you feel about this school? And then one other thing that's going to be big is the one thing that hasn't changed that I like is we always tell kids, pick your college that you want to go to based on if you blew out your knee, you blew your shoulder, whatever, and you're gonna stay at that school anyway.
And
that's gonna be
pick
big
your college, imagining you're standing on the sidelines.
Yep, and that's gonna be an interesting deal now too, because while that was always the case, because you didn't have the transfer portal and you didn't have the ability to move as quickly, I'm excited to ask the guys that will get on how that's going to possibly affect the landscape going forward. Is that still the case? Because you can transfer so easy now, you can make a move, but it's not always so easy for every family, right? Because you've made that financial commitment to a university, and another university might have a different financial package for you. So that angle is going to be something that these guys need to consider for the first year or 2 or 3 while we get through this new path of this. Because do you really want to be the guy that transfers first, second, first time, second time in 2 years, right out of the gate? Or do you want to be somebody that shows loyalty and shows commitment to a program, a university, an institution, whatever? There's a whole angle on that side to consider. So we didn't even prep that. We weren't even talking about that before the episode, and that was something that came through. So it's like, there's so many things that are going to be just, it's like an onion, right? The layers are just going to keep coming, and nobody knows what's on the next layer yet. And it's really, really exciting.
Well, we're definitely going to pay attention to it. What are you telling your boys on your team? Like, how are you handling their questions, and what resources are you pointing them towards?
Yeah, now I'm basically, anytime they ask a new question, I ask the guys that I know, and I have my group texts, and I say, hey, I got a kid looking for XYZ. what do I need to tell him right now? And I'll get a couple of different answers back, and I'll, one's kind of over here in left field, one's over here in right field, and one's in the center. And I kind of look at all of them and I go, okay, bud, look, this is what I'm getting back now. And, it's weird because for the last 15 years, I was confident in how to tell a kid to approach his recruiting and how to do this. So it's weird. It's only been a few weeks of this, and I've got a couple seniors and I've got a couple of juniors that are going to be getting a good look here. And to tell them, it's a hard thing to sit here right now and say, buddy, I don't know the right answer, but I know I can go find some answers and I can help you guys, try to navigate it. But there is no simple, oh, you got to do this. There's no one road anymore. You've got to tell these guys, look, it's all unknown. Let's concentrate on our academics and let's let lacrosse fall where it falls. But again, kind of going back to let's pick our school based on if you were standing on the sideline. Let's pick our school based on that package, because I don't have anybody that's getting, a quarter or even a half athletic D1 lacrosse ride.
No.
Plus academics. So my guys are all academic. It's like, hey, do you want to do academics? Do you want to do academics and GI Bill? Do you want to do academics and you have a college trust fund? Like, let's look at your angles for that. Do you want to go far? It's still the traditional questions, but it's going to be a lot more of, do you want to be on a deep roster? Do you want to be on a growing roster? Do you want to be, now it's, what do you think it's going to be? It's gonna be a continual learning experience. I actually, now that you're asking me and
that's a
kind
good
of now
approach.
looking ahead, it's gonna be, I intend to learn as much from every conversation as I can. And still knowing that what I learned in this conversation might not apply in 2 weeks, but knowing that I can give you the best information for the time being, that's all I can do. And just, I'm going to remain honest with my guys. Now, you're asking me, you're kind of putting me on the spot there. I like it. Cause
Hey
now
man,
I'm like,
that's what
I'm
this
having
is
to
for.
think about it. Yeah. I'm like, wow, now I gotta
Explore
remember, I
the
gotta
edges.
stay honest and tell the guys, hey, look, I don't have the crystal ball. And I can give you advice right now, and I can say what I might do, and I can get some more opinions. But yeah, how we're going to approach this going forward, it's going to be an ever-changing, evolving path. And we're going to have to make the best decision that we can with the information we can get. That's about as best as I can put it now.
Yeah, well, like I said, I think you've got a great approach to it, and I think your boys are in the best hands they can be in right now. This is definitely something we want to keep track of. So I think you and I will be reattacking this at some point here in the near future. The NCAA, they've got some work to do for sure. They have to figure out this NIL thing. They have to figure out transfer portal. They have to figure out eligibility. I think everyone would agree that playing at the JUCO level is not nearly the same as playing D1, D2, D3, or even some of the good MCLA, NAIA programs. It's just not the same. It should not count to be the same.
Right.
And even some of those D3 schools. I mean, we're not talking about the Salisburys or anything like that. We're talking about the team that they have a lacrosse program because somebody said, hey, it would be really fun to have a lacrosse team to, goof off with.
Yeah.
That's what they have. The NCAA gave them a little bit of money to make sure they do this, and they're D3, so they're just, they're just there for fun, basically.
Right. And the other
I don't know, man.
The NCAA is going to have to figure out if they're going to maintain the control and the responsibility of what we know as the NCAA. There's so many rumors out there now about the Power One, the Power Four conferences rather, making one athletic association of their own for football, and then a second one for basketball outside of the jurisdiction of the NCAA. And now you have that to consider and think it's coming down the line. And what would that do to the entire landscape over the course of 12, 18, 24 months? That unknown is completely different. And I mean, the rumors are there. You got one more year of the college football playoff the way it is, and there's a chance it's going to blow up. So you've got to get that whole figured. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah. Well, we'll keep track of it for sure.
Yeah,
I appreciate you as always, man. I always come away from talking with you almost like I'm a rookie again. Like I just, it's good. No, it's good. It's good to be challenged. It's good to challenge, the current mindset and expand our horizons a little bit. Real quick before we shut this down for the day, tell everybody where they can find you and what they can expect from Casey McDonald and Southside Lacrosse this year.
Absolutely. So I'm on Instagram, Facebook, Coach Casey McDonald, spelled just like it sounds. You can find me there. You can find us with Southside High School Lacrosse Club. Both Instagram and Facebook will be available. We post on our schedule this week. I'm always available for DMs and connections. And hey, let me meet this guy, and you meet this guy or this girl, and let's all get together and talk about it. Absolutely. Hit me up anytime. But what you can expect from the Sharks is we're going to get after it. We're not going to run from anybody. We're going to challenge ourselves a little bit this year, but our mentality is we're chasing to turn some heads and compete for the district championship, for the West District Division II championship here this season, and ideally a berth in the state championship. I mean, it's there for us. This level of competition it exists for a reason for programs like us to get established and to have some success instead of going out and just getting absolutely drummed by everybody. And I like that about the LHSLL. It's available for programs to be founded and have success right away and build up, because there's zero reason to go 0-16 in your first year just because you're the new guys. So we know we've got everything in front of us, and it's going to be based on what we want and what we end up committing to. Are we going to commit to executing the fundamentals and executing the X's and O's, and we'll see how that plays out for us. But I can tell you, I've got two amazing assistant coaches at my side. I've got a fantastic faculty sponsor. I've got a fantastic athletic director and principal who have our back. We have a beautiful facility, and then our football field will actually our football stadium, lacrosse stadium, will be finished in August. So we have a great future after this season with hosting some more on the turf and things like that. But we're gonna open our arms to the LHSLL this year. We're hosting these neutral games and having opportunities for teams to play that might not be able to play or might not be able to play as affordably as possible. So we're gonna be the team also that's there to give back to the organizations that's opened their arms to us. So you're gonna see a lot of positivity and a lot of growth and a lot of humble appreciation from us, and hopefully in 4 months, a district and/or a state championship.
Awesome. I can't wait to be there. I have a question as we close this out.
Shoot.
Can I stand on the sideline for your game when I come to your game? Will you let me
Absolutely.
stand on the sideline
I got
with
you
your team?
on the sideline. Yeah, you absolutely can join us.
I'll pass out water.
Yeah. Pass out. Yeah, we'll get you,
absolutely.
We'll get you the water bottles. You can take First City lacrosse snaps and post to the socials, and
absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely, of course.
Man, I just want to see
honored guest.
Like you. I love
honored
the game.
Guest.
I appreciate
Honored guest, Coach Jon in the house. Absolutely.
All right. Guys, thanks so much for joining us. Again, you can find us also with Southside Lacrosse. We are on social media at First City Lax. That's 1ST City Lax on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and you can also email me at Jon at First City Lax. I always love hearing from you guys. If you have content you want me to explore, or if you've got someone that we need to talk to, go ahead and send them my way. I'd be happy to get them on here. But that's it for now. Get your reps in. Be a good human. We will see you next time.
That's right. Fear the Fin.
If you like what you hear, drop us a like and follow wherever you downloaded this podcast from, and on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at First City Labs. Check back every week for more content. Thank you for being a part of the First City Lacrosse podcast.